Hello everyone, this is Ragavan, and this video we are going to setting up the Git after installing the Git. To install the Git, we will go to the official website which is git-sem.com/download. I am going to download for the Windows. In case if you are using the Mac OS or Linux, you just download the same executable for that. Now once you download, you will go to the download and you will see the exe file. Just double click, it will ask for the permission. Click on install. If you have already some Git version, it will uninstall and install the latest version. If you are installing for the first time, it will install the new one. Click on finish and it will show the release notes for that. However, we can read it if it is required. Now, if you look for Git in your desktop, you will find 2 or 3 applications, Git UI and Git CMD and Git Bash. So I prefer to use the Git Bash. However, if you want to use the UI, you can use the Git GUI, and it will ask you for the repository to open or to clone the existing repository, or you can create a new repository. Now we have successfully installed the Git SCM tool. Now let's configure the basic. We are going to configure the Git basically for username and email. Before configuring this, we will understand why do we need this username and email. Whenever you configure the username and email, this username and email will be used in the remote repository. Basically, when you commit some code, that should be audited and tracked. So who has committed. So for that, we need to just configure the username, and email will also be configured because whenever you raise the pull request or whenever you get some commits to your repository, you should be notified with the email address. So for that reason, we will configure the username and email. But the catch here is when you configure the Git, you can configure the Git in 3 levels. The first one would be the global, second one would be the system, and third one would be the local. We will try to understand what are those levels. The first one, system. Whenever you configure something at system level, this will be applicable for all the users on the same system where you configure. Obviously, when it is for all the users at the system level, it applicable for all the repositories at the same system. Mainly, we will configure at the system level such as proxy settings, default text editor, which will be common across all the people for all the repositories. Next one would be the global. This one will be applicable for the current user who logged in to the system. And for that user, whatever may be the repositories he or she work, all the settings will be applicable as part of the global. Basically, since it's more focusing on the current user specific details such as like a username, email, and other preferences for the tools. Now, by this time, you might have already known we are going to configure the username and email at the global level. Let's understand the local as well. Local at the repository level. Whenever we work with Git, we will be working on the project. Under the project, you will be having the .git folder. This .git folder will be configured only at the project level. Whenever you want to apply some changes or configuration at the project level, then we will make the changes or configuration at the local. Since we have the 3 system, global, local configuration, how the order works? Local configuration overrides the global configuration, because at the project level, you can change any configuration because you need to work at very detailed level. For example, for specific project, you need to push it to the different repository, or a specific project, you need to give us a username as a different mail ID. So whatever the requirement at the project level, you will making the local configuration, which will override the global configuration. Now global configuration at the current user level, right? So that's the reason global configuration will override the system configuration. Finally, system configuration provides a base setting. That means basically system level will be taken in case if you don't have anything at the global or local. However, in this all 3 levels, there will be some configuration which will be available only at that level. Further, when we move for the next level or further we move for the next topics, we will try to understand what configured or what changes we will make at the different level. As part of this video, we will configure the username and email. However, we will try to see other configuration as well. Whenever you try to configure something, you will be typing git config, then you will be mentioning the level. For example, either it is a system level or global level or local level. Since we have discussed proxies details would be at the system level, because this proxy details is required for all the users who log into that system for all the repositories. Let's try to add this proxy details, a dummy proxy details at the system level. Let me copy this and type git. As we discussed, we can go with git bash. Now we are setting up the proxy, HTTP proxy, where the value would be http://proxy.example example.com colon 8080 port. Now you will get the problem because you just open the git bash as a normal user. Since it's a changes for the system level, so we should open this application as a administrator. Close this, again type git and here right click, run as administrator. Now here you have opened the git bash as a system administrator. If you don't have the permission, you cannot change anything at the system configuration level. Now again we will go to the same command, right click, paste, enter, yes. Now how to see that? The same command without value, if you just give, you will be seeing the value for that. Basically when you try to assign a value, you will give the value after the key. Here git config is the command and we are giving the level hyphen system and the key is http proxy and value is the actual URL. When you don't give the key, it will try to see the existing ones and it will give the value. Now the question arises where this configuration has been saved. If you go to our previous slide, you might have noticed C program files git etc git config. So this is the place the system configuration has been placed. If you go to C, the same C program files git and the path that we mentioned here, git etc git config. Here you can see the git config, open with notepad, reload. Here you can see it has been added as proxy and the value that we have given. Generally, even if you try to open from your local, it will not open. Why? Because this will be at the system level. You should open as a system administrator. Now coming back to the terminal, we have set up the value and we have seen the value actually in the terminal, and we went to the folder level and we have seen the exact git config file as well. Now coming to the global level, and even you can use this command git config system list so that you can see everything from the terminal itself. Now let's set up the username at the global level. Git config global user.name is equal to global user. Enter. We have set up. To see the value, just remove the value and see, just providing the key value. Now same way we will update the mail ID as well. We have set up the email as well. Just to see the value, enter, you can see the value for the user.email. Again the same way, if you want to see the entire information, you can use the git config since we have set up global global list. So let's try that. I want to see everything as a list. Enter. Okay, we should mention double hyphen even for list. Enter. Here you can see at the global level we have set up the user.email, user.name and some other information. Okay, now we have completed the global level. We have set up the username and email. If you see, another one would be the local. See this, you need to go to any specific project repository. However, we have not created or cloned any repository so far. I will just show the existing one of the repository. Whenever you go to some folder, how do you determine whether it is the Git project or not? Whenever you go to the project folder, if you see the folder called .git, then that project is the Git project. More details will be in the coming videos. However, to identify the project as a Git project, you will be seeing .git folder. Sometimes this will not be visible for you because whenever folder or file starts with dot, that means that it's a hidden file. In order to see all the hidden files and folders in your current project or in your current folder, you need to go to the view and here you can see hidden item. You should be selecting that. If you don't select it, you cannot see the files or folders which starts with dot. Now we have selected the .git. Since it's a Git project, if you just go to the address bar and type cmd enter, this way also we can directly open that folder in the terminal. However, this is a simple Windows PowerShell or command prompt. Now let's imagine I want to set up the username at the local. That means at the project level. Git config local username local user. Now if I go there and if I want to see the value, again the same way, at the level of local I want to see the user.name. So there is a typo, however the double quote also has been added, some different double quotes. So now we have seen the value. Now I want to see all the details about the configuration. So in that case, I will just type git config list. Git config list. Here you can see all the information from the total configuration. Here you can see the user.name as a local user. Another place you will see the global user. But this has been set at the global level. This has been set at the local level. However, we have a lot of other configuration also mentioned here. We don't need to go through everything, but in the future, when it is required, we will come to here and we will set up things as we need. Now, let's imagine as part of this video, we want to just change the username and email. Some of us may not be so much interested in terminal command, and even for simply changing the username and mail, I don't want to type so many commands. If you are that person, then just look for the git GUI, you just open any existing repository. For example, I am opening the recent repository. Once you start working on the repository, it will be very easy to open the existing repository. Once you open, just go to edit and click on option. Here you can see, since we have opened at the project level, so what is the username? At the global level, what is the username and mail ID? However, here you cannot see the system. Why? Because system will be mainly for the administrator activities, so that by default it will not be available at the Git UI. If you want to make changes, you go to the terminal level. But for simple project level and global level of settings, you can directly come to the Git UI and you can make the changes as necessary. Let's understand further what we have seen so far. We have downloaded the Git and we have installed it. We configured the Git at three different levels. We have understood overall system level we can configure, for example, proxy settings, and we have mentioned at the current user perspective, if you want to make changes or configure something such as username and email, you will configure at the global level. Last but not least, for a specific project, you want to set up something only for that project, then you will go to the specific project folder and you will find .git folder. So that is the project folder, that is the Git project as well. Then from there, you will just open the terminal and set up the things such as git config -local and whatever the value you want to set up. And we have seen what are the different levels and its order. For example, local configuration takes the overall priority, then global configuration. If nothing is there, the system configuration will be considered. But whenever you make the system configuration, either by terminal, either by application, you should go with admin rights. And even we have seen the Git UI. For example, if you want to make some changes at the project level or at the global level, you can use the Git UI as well. So this is all about this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.